I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Biden on the cliff. That's the focus of tonight's angle. It was a beautiful, somber setting in France to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day today. The few remaining World War II vets on their final mission. The Biden team hoped that the president's remarks would resonate with voters back home, showcasing him as a Reagan-esque figure who would unite Americans and the rest of the world behind his vision. But the speech they wrote for him merely demonstrated how muddled, unserious, and unrealistic their thinking is. First, the Biden folks seem to think that they can convince us that Russia in Ukraine poses the same existential threat to the West as Germany did in 1944.
We will not walk away. If we do, Ukraine will be subjugated and will not end there. Ukraine's neighbors will be threatened. All of Europe will be threatened. In their hour of trial, the Allied forces of D-Day did their duty. Now the question for us is, in our hour of trial, will we do ours?
But this is simply ridiculous. European nations themselves are so unconcerned about the Russian threat that to this day, many of them are not meeting their own targets. Remember, that was decided upon back in, 2014, to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. Now, under these circumstances, Biden's speech comes across as just irresponsibly fear-mongering that could actually end up with our getting into a nuclear war with the former Soviet Union, especially the fact that now Biden has authorized that Ukraine can use American weapons to fire into Russia.
Are American weapons being used right now inside Russia?
They're authorized to be used in proximity to the border. We're not authorizing strikes 200 miles into Russia. We're not authorizing strikes on Moscow, on the Kremlin.
Oh, thanks. Remember the 200-mile rule now. That's no problem at all. It's cavalier attitude, given where this can lead, which Putin responded forcefully to yesterday.
We are thinking that if they consider it possible to deliver such weapons to the combat zone to launch strikes on our territory and create problems for us, why don't we have the right to supply weapons of the same type to some regions of the world where they can be used to launch strikes on sensitive facilities of the countries that do it to Russia? The answer may be asymmetric.
This is not good. And the bloodlust in Biden's remarks today is not going to help calm tensions.
They've suffered tremendous losses in Russia. The numbers are staggering. 350,000 Russian troops dead or wounded. Nearly 1 million people have left Russia because they can no longer see a future in Russia.
Now, contrast that celebration of the bloodshed in this conflict to Trump's call for peace 5 years ago at Normandy. What do you pray for when you pray for this country?
Peace, really peace. And we built up our military, we built up our wealth, we've built up everything. Our country is in such great shape right now. Iran is in a much different position than they were 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, Iran was a disaster for us. Now they've got problems, let's put it that way. They're not the same country. North Korea, no nuclear tests, have a good relationship. And we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. China wants to make a deal. Everybody wants to make a deal. We're the best. We're the strongest. There's nobody even close.
Wow. What a change to today. And another big problem with Biden's remarks, his comments on democracy.
We're living in a time when democracy is more at risk across the world than any point since the end of World War II. Now we have to ask ourselves, will we stand against tyranny, against evil, against crushing brutality of the iron fist? Will we stand for freedom? Will we defend democracy? Will we stand together? My answer is yes, and only can be yes.
This is nonsense. If we were truly worried about the fate of democracy, well, Biden himself would be laser-focused on the rise of China, which is the only existential threat to democracy around the globe today, with the power of China. Instead, his DOJ and his party are focused on putting their political opponents in jail. That's democracy, while his cabinet members and big donors fly to Beijing to kiss President Xi's ring. Yeah. Even future Democrat contenders are in on the China flattery competition.
In expectation, as you suggest, of turning the page, of renewing our friendship, re-engaging on foundational and fundamental issues that will determine our collective fate and future.
For several years now, the angle has warned the White House that their problems are not communications issues that can be solved with a new speech or a new slogan. We need better policies, and we need to put the Ukraine situation in the right perspective. Putin is a horrible dictator, but he isn't a supreme threat to the United States of America. We need a president who sees our domestic policy that it should be geared toward restoring U.S. manufacturing and then decoupling us from the communist regime in China, and then reestablishing our ability to once again serve as the arsenal of democracy. That is the peace through strength that President Reagan spoke about. The entire Biden apparatus has it backwards. For them, it will be war through weakness. Divide the country at home, turn Americans against their Constitution, their history, spend us into impossible debt levels, leave our southern border open, then ask Americans to sign up to defend Finland and Sweden against Russia? I'm not sure they're going to like the answer our young people give them about fighting to serve that mission. By trying to draw parallels to Reagan, Biden's staff only underscores the extent to which the United States has declined over the past 40 years since Reagan's punt to hawk moment. You can ask yourself, is America stronger now than she was in 1984? No one believes this. It was moronic for them to ever make this comparison. Reagan won 49 states and 525 electoral votes in 1984. We think Biden's going to hit that mark too? These are moments from today that our press will not show you. Biden confused upon arriving at the event. Biden making sure he follows directions.
I asked him, said, I've got a meeting to be first on the lead because I told people up.
You're not supposed to tell people that. Biden gets pulled back by Dr. Jill as Macron greets D-Day vets. This is our commander-in-chief. If in a Biden second term, there is a realistic chance that American troops are going to be fighting Russian troops, then President Biden and the White House and the Pentagon, they need to be honest about this now. Listen closely to today's speech and to Blinken's aggressive remarks lately, and you can hear the war drums beating in the background. Biden was on the cliff today, but if he's going to push us over the cliff of war, we should all take that into account come Election Day. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.